Over the past few weeks you may have come across news like this: Mary Poppins censored in England, banned for minors. But it is true? Or it is, as usual, the newspaper misrepresenting a news, whether out of sensationalism, clickbait, malice, or simply because they publish articles without checking the sources? Obviously it's the second option, because in this case talking about censorship is simply fake. As you may know, I'm translating in English my very first novella, a sci-fi story, Odyssey to Trappist 1. Wait until the end of the video if you wanna know how to back it on Kickstarter and how to get an ebook copy and get featured in the acknowledgement section of the book. This is the Italian version, by the way. Let's get back to Mary Poppins. Mary Poppins is a world-famous movie that was released in 1964. This is a key factor in the current diatribe. Recently, being the 60th anniversary, the film was due to return to British cinemas, and so the BBFC, the British Board of Film Classification, reviewed the film, as they routinely do when films end up in theaters. And they reclassified the film, moving it from the U category, which stands for Universal, to the PG category, which stands for Parental Guidance. The reclassification was justified by BBFC because of a word used twice by one of the characters. The character is Admiral Boom, and the word is Hottentot. What the hell does it mean? The word Hottentot was originally coined by the Dutch conquerors to refer to the people of South Africa who, speaking in their own languages, were incomprehensible to the colonizers. In fact, it means something like stammering, babbling, and has a very similar etymology to the word barbarian. Now, Admiral Boom is a crazy old man who thinks he is commanding a ship on the rooftop of the city, firing cannons to mark the hours. It's out of his mind. He is a character of the classic old-fashioned British military, conservative and colonialist. It makes sense then that the character used pre-war colonialist slang. It was deliberately old even for the year the film released, and after 60 years, times have changed and so have people, languages and sensibilities. When the chimney sweeps, their faces smeared with ash, look over to the rooftops, Admiral Boom shout, "We're being attacked by the Hottentots!" And though it has much in common with the word barbarians, to those who say that as barbarians offends no one, then Hottentots must be also okay, I would remind them that words have different meanings depending on the context and the era in which they are used, and that no one that uses the word barbarian today has ever joined the police force to choke one with his knee on his neck, and that's all the difference. So the BBFC decided to raise the rating from U to PG. They didn't cut the two scenes where the term is used, they didn't re-record good old Boom, and they didn't change the movie in any way, they just changed the rating of it. They're just saying, hey, there is a character in this movie who is crazy and old, and he was a soldier, and as old colonial soldier in the 1800s, he's kind of a racist. And congruently with his character, he uses racist terms, which were racist back then, but are considered even more derogatory today. So if you want to prevent your son from going to school tomorrow and calling his classmates Hottentots, you might want to sit next to him and help him contextualize that word. This is not censorship, this is culture, because they don't change anything of the movie. They're encouraging parents to contextualize the word for their children, which means contextualizing the whole issue of racism, colonialism and cultural change. I mean, if that's not culture, I don't know what it is. Your child is going to come out from the viewing of the movie very enriched without even realizing it. If doing all this seems like a big slam to you, fuck you, it's not like I ordered you to have kids. Jokes aside, I found it odd that many newspapers and webzines are running headliners about Mary Poppins being censored, that it's now an adulterated movie in England, that cancel culture has descended on another classic because you can't say anything anymore. Equiparating this to what happened to Gone with the Wind, that was pulled from the catalog of I don't remember which platform because of its obvious racist context, or what happened to Roald Dahl's novels, which were edited I don't remember by which publisher to fit the modern sensibilities. But is there anything remotely true about these claims? After all, they reclassified it as PG, so maybe they didn't change it, but maybe they ban it from being seen by minors or from kids under, I don't know, age of 12, 15. Since most journalists are obviously not able to do their job, I'm going to take a few clicks and literally 10 seconds of my life to go to the British Board of Film Classification website to actually see what these acronyms mean. It took literally 10 seconds. You write British Board of Film Classification on Google, and the first result is their website. You click on it and you can write a proper article for your paper. Welcome to Journalism 101! As we can immediately see from the homepage, the classification system has 6 categories, with U being the less restrictive and PG following closely behind. Clicking on a category brings up a section explaining the meaning of the category. Makes sense, doesn't it? The U stands for universal. These are the works suitable even for the youngest children. The real bans came with the number stickers, that stands for exactly what you might imagine. Starting from the right, movies banned for kids under the age of 18, movies banned for kids under the age of 15. Guys, you can't go to the theaters to see this movie, okay? You just have to wait for them to come up on the streaming services. On the 12 years old mark, the music changes, because the 12 stamps, as much as it prohibits under 12-year-old to buy or rent such a movie. Kid renting a movie? Is renting movies still a thing? However, it still allows them to watch the movie in the theater if accompanied by an adult. The same things goes for the 12A stamps, but it also allows you the great luxury of renting. What about the PG stamp? What does that mean? Well, it says that some scene may not be suitable for very young children. However, no child under the age of 8 should have any problem with it. That children of any age can watch it, even unaccompanied. Children of any age can watch it, even unaccompanied. It is simply an invitation to parents to take a look at the content to understand what it is about. For example, even the first Harry Potter movie is rated PG, so your 5-year-old son can safely go to see it if the bullies on the street don't steal his ticket money. He watches the Quidditch game, he falls in love with Hermione, and he will have nightmares for a month because of the scene in the forest while Voldemort sucks the unicorn blood, as everyone did. The BBFC is just saying to you, if you know that your son is particularly sensible to horror scene and will have nightmares for 10 years after seeing Voldemort sucking the blood of the unicorn, maybe go see the film with him and don't let it be alone in a dark room with an unholy rite running towards the camera. You know him, you check the content. Now, when I was less than 8 years old, I never went to the movies without at least one of my parents. And I don't have any children, but those of you who do, please tell me if you would let your offspring, who can barely read and write, to go to the movies alone. Well, for the BBFC, there is absolutely no problem. So, my dear newspaper, my dear press, where's the censorship? What are you even talking about? Now that I have proved beyond any doubt that a large part of the press distorted the news, let us go on and ask, why did they do that? The reasons are not many and we can summarize them in a few points. They copied and pasted articles from other newspapers without checking the sources. We all know that copying pasting is one of the great information problems of our time. The pace is fast and the pressure to publish articles is so great that many simply paraphrase news found in other newspaper. They just change a few words and the order of the sentences, just like high school kids trying not to let the teacher find out they copied their homeworks from Wikipedia. And that's sad. That's really, really sad. They have sold their souls to the evil god of clickbait, writing outrageous headlines, censorship here, censorship there, while then they actually explain how things are in the article. But we all know most people don't even read the whole article, they just read titles. They don't go in deep reading the actual article, and why should they? Life is chaotic, life is fast, and nobody give a shit about Mary Poppins. Let's just be honest with that, no one gives a shit about Mary Poppins nowadays. I wouldn't have read the articles either if I hadn't decided to make this video. So my dear journalists and newspapers, you are making misinformation with your clickbait headlines. And also actually many of you don't even explain exactly how the thing is in the articles, you just go on full racist mode. And this brings us to the next point. They try to politicize the news, going for the victimhood typical of the most conservative political currents. You can't say anything anymore, they censored even Mary Poppins, then the LGBT movement and the cancel culture, without realizing that they are actually, right now, saying what they want to say, and that nobody likes cancel culture. So stop comparing Mary Poppins with Gone with the Wind and with the new edition of Roald Dahl's novels, which on the other hand, one could speak of actual censorship, they literally changed words and phrases. But this is not the case, this is not the same. Last but not least, they simply have too low an IQ to read and understand the news. It is a miracle that they have passed the 5th grade. We already know that this cannot be true, because the disproportion between virtuous and shitty articles is such that if they were really unable to exercise the most basic understanding of a written text, it would mean that a large part of humanity has the IQ of a goat. After all, half of humanity has a below average IQ. If newspapers like The Guardian, The Washington Post and Variety can write informative articles and put decent headlines on them, why can't you people do the same? Why do you have to engage in sensationalism, a boorish clickbait, or indulge into the victimhood of you can't say anything anymore, while you're saying exactly what you want to say right now? Why do you have to be incompetent, negligent, malicious, or bluntly racist? I'm speaking directly to journalists, and please, if you belong to this category and are a virtuous example of it, do not be offended. I am completely on your side. I imagine you are also fed up with this blunt journalism. On the other hand, if you belong to the above categories, please take offense, because either you agree with me or you are rotten inside. Above all, I would like to remind you that being under any kind of pressure, whether it is the editorial line of the newspaper you work for, whether it is your editor, whether it is even just the need for your salary to live, whether it is just the 2 pennies that allows you to not starve and you despise the system as much as I do, all of those things might act as mitigating factors, but it does not make your action any less immoral. It's like the SS soldier saying, "I was just following orders." It's not pretty, but it's the truth. You at least have to be aware of that. As I said at the beginning of the video, I'm launching a Kickstarter campaign to translate in English my first novella. It is a sci-fi story. You can get more information in the landing page and also subscribe to my mailing list to get the first 3 chapters for free. Links are in the description. Go check it out.